standings.
Let's go to the best conference in the country, the Southeastern Conference, and start in the West, Phil.
Well, you got three top 10 teams in the West. You've got Mississippi, Alabama, and LSU. And if you go in the back of the magazine, you look in the power poll, I've got Mississippi number 5, LSU number 9, and Alabama number 8. So they're all bunched in there. 9 sets of power ratings. The difference between those three teams, decimal points. But I've got Ole Miss ranked number 6 in the country. I've got LSU ranked number 17. The reason is schedule. LSU has to play both Florida and Georgia out of the East, the best two teams. Mississippi doesn't have to play either one of them during the regular season. During the season, LSU's got to travel to Alabama and travel to Mississippi. They're going to be an underdog in 4 games this year. Mississippi hosts Alabama, hosts LSU. They're actually going to be favored in all 12 games. And a lot of folks are saying, this is Mississippi, unexpected expectations. Yeah, it's a lot of burden. A team that's not expected. They were just 3-9 2 years ago. How are they going to handle those expectations?
I saw them play a couple times last year, though. You could tell that they were right on the brink.
Yeah, they are, and they whipped Texas Tech in that bowl game.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about them, they're not going to be tested that much this year. They play a cupcake schedule. Their non-conference games are ridiculously easy, and their road games this year, your Mississippi States, your Vanderbilts, the teams you want to play on the road.
Win the West.
They're actually going to be favored in all 12 games this year. And I've got Mississippi as the team winning the West. And I tell you what, that would set up an exceptional SEC title game if you had Mississippi and Florida both at 12-0. Last team to beat Florida?
Are they ever going to have an off year?
Florida? Well, they had one 2 years ago. They had 4 losses. You know, they finished, I think, 14th in the country. And that year, I got beat up by Gator fans during the whole offseason because I didn't even have them in my top 10.
Can anybody challenge them in the East this year?
I think Georgia's got a shot. You know, if you look at the Georgia-Florida game last year, Georgia actually outgained Florida in that game. It was close at the half. A couple plays went against them. Georgia had some injuries and got beaten. Of course, last year, Georgia was the preseason number 1 team in the country.
Right.
On my website, philsteele.com, I had a big article, Georgia will not win the national title. Here's 10 reasons why. A lot of it had to do with the schedule. They had a killer schedule last year. They also lost their starting left tackle prior to the year, and then they lost their starting defensive tackle. The 2 best players on the line, they lost him in week 1. So Georgia struggled against that schedule. Now this year, they lose their quarterback in Stafford. They lose Moreno at running back. But I like the replacements, especially at running back. And I think Cox is going to be a capable quarterback. They're solid at the line. They get those 2 injured players back. They played 3 freshmen on the offensive line last year. They're all sophomores. They do open with Oklahoma State out of the box. But, you know, the coach in the NCAA with the best record on the road this decade is Mark Richt. He's got the best. And his road record is actually better than his home record by 1 game, which I found fascinating.
How's Kiffin going to do?
Well, you know, I tell you one thing. If I'm taking over as a coach in the SEC, the last thing I do is go rattle Urban Meyer's cage.
I couldn't believe he shot his mouth off like that about the recruiting.
That's going to be one ugly game, I'm telling you, Bruce. In fact, I checked out the Golden Nugget lines out in Vegas. They've got marquee games for the season up already. 27-point favorite Florida is over Tennessee. And I'll tell you what, I'm laying the 27 because Urban Meyer is not going to spare anything because he knows he has to recruit against Kiffin each and every year. And if you got a team, you got him down, you can do it. But I think Kiffin steps into a great situation, and they make my most improved list. And if you follow the magazine, you know, if you make my most improved list, I'm expecting you to go from a losing record to a bowl. I actually have them favored in 8 of their 12 games this year. They're strong along the line of scrimmage. They've got Eric Berry, who I thought was the best defensive player in the country last year, back at safety. They've got excellent linebacking core. And on the schedule, really, there's only 4 games they're going to be an underdog in. So I think Tennessee, as much as I would not have gone about it Kiffin's way, adding Bryce Brown at running back, which was huge. He was the number 1 running back coming out of high school. I think it's a 7 or 8 win season for Tennessee.
Florida versus Mississippi for the SEC championship is what Phil is calling for. Let's go.